terminology. Okay? So here's our mandibular arch, the first visceral arch with the lower and upper jaw. Okay? We're going to have our premaxilla, vomer, and then right here, the platopterygoid, like platopterygoid quadrate. The platopterygoid meets with this bone here. This bone here is the quadrate bone. That's why you learn platopterygoid quadrate, to understand the relationship of platopterygoid and quadrate. All of them bear teeth. One of the things we see in evolutionary history with vertebrates is a reduction in the number of teeth. That's why hockey players are so highly evolved. So the number of tooth-bearing bones is reduced. For you, your upper teeth are all held by your maxilla. But our mud puppy here has lots of bones supporting those teeth. Lower jaw, it always Meckel's cartilage like the shark. But then during development, bone begins to form around it. We have multiple bones in the lower jaw. That's one thing that makes mammals different from other vertebrates, is that we only have one lower jaw bone, the mandible, which is actually the right and left dentary fused together. That's because we chew. It caused changes. We'll talk more about that later. But the main bone of the lower jaw, just like in you, is the dentary or mandible. Okay, that's why it's called dentary, because it holds teeth. You'll notice as we work our way to the corner here, there's a line right here at the angle of the jaw. This little bone at the angle of the jaw is called the angular. So dentary, angular. The next one's really hard to see. You got to kind of manipulate your animal just right to get it. But if you look on the inside of the jaw here, see how there's this little group of teeth that seems separate from everything else? They're a little whiter on this specimen. They're on a raised little disc of bone right here. That's the splenial bone. Okay? Little hard to see. You gotta get right at the right angle to see it, but it basically looks like a rooster comb with 4 teeth attached to it. So we got our splenial, dentary at the angle, the angular. And we look at it on top, and it looks like there's a little piece of glue here, right? That's the last of the Meckel's cartilage. So in the center of all of this bone is still Meckel's cartilage, the bone formed around it. In some animals, the Meckel's cartilage disappears, like ours, it disappears, but that's replaced by spongy bone. The Meckel's cartilage stays longer, the lower jaw is hollow. And that's what you see with alligators and turtles, for example. All right, now on to the hyoid. This is easier. All right? You got our hypohyal, and then curving up like a pair of horns, ceratohyal. Similar terminology, right? Here's our first and second basibranchi. First is cartilage, second is bone. It's the only bone we got in this group here. And coming up, I wouldn't say this looks like a horn as much as it looks like antlers, but still horn-like, ceratobranchial. The first gill arch, so branchial arch number 1, ceratobranchial number 1, 1, 2, 3rd visceral arch. Again, got to be careful to read the question, right? So coming off the first ceratobranchial is this brown cartilage, which is the first epibranchial. Behind it is the second and third epibranchials. You notice how the second and third epibranchials meet right here. That junction is the second ceratobranchial. So the first ceratobranchial actually supports the entire gill. It supports the first epibranchial, second ceratobranchial, which in turn supports epibranchials 2 and 3. Does that make sense? And the reason why these gills look different is mud puppies don't have gill slits like a shark. Mud puppies have external gills. They rotate using muscles into the water stream to get more oxygen. Faster moving water has more oxygen, colder water has more oxygen. So by moving their gills, they can stay stationary and still get more oxygen. Any questions on that? Thomas?
Yeah, and does the epibranchial detach from the pharyngobranchial to make it?
Nope, they stay attached. Yeah, they don't just break off. They're attached, and they're covered by a lot of soft tissue, as you'll see when you do your mud puppy dissection.
So for sharks that have several rows of teeth, how does that work with their jaws?
Let me get a better set of jaws to show you that.
He's
I don't
got-
think you need to record